you so much for this kind introduction. Well, I have to post it at the very beginning that this talk is going to be a little bit unusual because what we academics normally do is just we do research first and then, go to a conference and say presenting some outcomes, insights to the research. But I'm going to present a research project that has yet to start. It's been actually awarded some while ago and it started on 1st of September, so 20 days ago. So I didn't have much time to do the actual research, so I decided to change the form into a little bit more experimental. This is the...
But you had a proposal, come on.
This is the subtitle of the presentation anyway. So it's gonna be Romani chords in 7 ethnographic pictures. And instead of introducing you to state-of-the-art methodology and all these sort of rather boring things, I decided to actually take you into this sort of inspirational background of my project. That is how I came to write such project, what interested me about this topic. And one interesting thing, these are going to be pictures generated by generative AI. And if you can split your attention, because I'm gonna include the prompts into the presentation as well, and I think the link between the prompts and the pictures that you will see on the slide illustrate very nicely our humankind knowledge that has been scraped by AI companies. So our preconception and stereotypes about Roma. So let's jump right into the first picture. That is, I'm going to introduce actually a set of 2 pictures that I call Romani chords in the discourses of non-Roma. And you can see here that I actually strike out the word ethnographic here, because the time I experienced this picture, this very important picture, was the time I didn't know what ethnography was, because I was about 9 years old. It was deep in the 1990s, and I was watching a TV show. And there was a female singer. Her name is Lucie Bílá. She happens to be one of the most popular Czechoslovak singer. And she also happens to be very popular among Roma because she has been long speculated that she has Romani origin, which she denied repeatedly. But in the studio, let's go back to the studio in the 1990s, I'm 9 years old watching this lady talking to this male guitarist, and all of a sudden she stated, "I can't really play guitar, but I can do this." And she grabbed the guitar neck in a very peculiar way. And then the male guitarist responded, "Yeah, that's a G major." And she said, "The Gypsy G, Cikánské G." And, it's stayed with me very long time. And soon afterwards, I actually started learning guitar. And I learned to know that Gypsy G is not something that Lucie Bílá came up with in this TV show, that it is, in fact, something that is well present in a sort of discourse of Czech guitarists. So what is Gypsy G? Harmonic-wise is this G major at 9, and I was doing some research on music forums. So this is a poll, a survey that, as you can see, 256 people responded to. Do you play Gypsy G or standard as in the textbooks? And do you think it's a bad habit? So you can see that 53% actually responded it's a nice piggery, which is automatic translation of the words pěkná prasečina. Some of you who knows Slavic languages, it's like no-go, under no circumstances, absolutely not. While about 15% actually responded, yeah, I play Gypsy G and I'm happy with myself. As another trace of the Gypsy G on the internet, Clara K was asking at the survey, do you know a guitarist who plays Gypsy G instead of the normal G? And this user replied, only pigs and people who are lazy to learn the plain G use it. That's why the pig's Gečko is more often used than only those who use it call it Gypsy. So this was for me a sort of important insight and sort of important first step into this topic of Romani chords. And then I need to take you 20 years afterwards, and it was the time, about 2 years ago, I was actually submitting this MSc project, and I don't know whether some of you have tried. It's a laborious work. You basically spend 3 months of your life on something that you have very little chance to get. And ever since I submitted, I was thinking, oh, did I actually manage to persuade the evaluators that Romani chords are really a thing? Hasn't it just been all coming from my sort of research fantasy? I wasn't sure all of a sudden. So I called to a great friend of mine and I told him, hey, man, I need to get some drinks and play some music. Let's meet. And we went to this, one of the most horrible and greatest pub in Prague, Usudu. And the great and bad is because you can basically play there and drink there until the end of the world and no one will even notice. And we had, people coming and going, we're playing and drinking, and at some moment, there was a gentleman, I think it was about 3 a.m., approaching us, and he told us, and we had very interesting conversation, and one of the glimpses of the conversation was, I wasn't really into music until I was in jail. There was this gypsy guy who started teaching me left-handed guitar, and then I realized that music is everything. And even later in the evening, there was a group of Romani musicians or Roma coming, and one of them actually approached me asking, would you mind if I borrow your guitar? And I said, yes, of course. And he started playing very, beautifully Romani songs, and he was a very skillful guitarist. And all of a sudden, this first gentleman said, romské akordy, can you hear that? The Romani chords. And for me, this was the moment when I had even like goosebumps, because then I knew, okay, so the Romani chords are not something coming from my fantasy. It's not just Gypsy G, but it's also something that other people notice, and it's probably and possibly something that is worth to look at. So, but now let's move to the actual ethnographic pictures. That is the pictures when I actually work as an ethnographer. And so the first topic I would like to introduce is the first way how to look at the phenomenon of Romani chords is as a way of sounding Romani. And in this respect, the very key meeting for me was when I, around 2015, met this gentleman. He's sadly no longer with us, but he showed me some very peculiar thing about guitar accompaniment, in particular Romani guitar accompaniment. She stated, listen, do you know why I dislike your music? Your meaning, your non-Romani, Gajas music. Because it's boring. You play like this. And he showed me like a basic chord progression. While we play like that. Oops. And then, obviously he showed me that what is the Romani sound is that you basically put way more chord. You are way more creative when it comes to chord progression, when it comes to chord extension, and so on and so forth. But he showed me also other thing, and this is that he had, in a way, his own understanding of what Romani chords are and how the whole concept of harmony is. He told me, fine, and now play D minor upside down. I was like, what? A D minor upside down, what does it mean? And sadly, I cannot ask him now whether it means like, he talks about finger configuration, whether he talks about root position of the tones, and so on and so forth. I don't know, but apparently he had his own way of understanding how this whole concept of harmony or harmonic accompaniment work. And this, I thought, is something worth exploring from Romani point of view. That is, how it works when it comes to Romani aesthetic, but also how it comes when it comes to conceptualization of this phenomenon. Okay, let's move on to the other set of picture. The other way you can look at Romani chords is as a way of growing into music. Here I'm going to introduce this picture. As you can see from the prom I was attending back in 2013 wild music party in a Romani segregated settlement in Slovakia. And I experienced a very interesting situation, which was that the gentleman playing the guitar wanted to tune up his musical instrument. So he asked the keyboardist, hey, give me G, hits G, give me the tone G so that I can tune my, I think it was bass guitar. And then he played a tone, and the bass guitarist tried his best to tune up his guitar. And then he said, hey, you stupid, this is not G. And it turns out that this gentleman didn't know where the tone G was located on the keyboard. Which, you may think, no worries, he was a music beginner, that's why he didn't know. But in fact, this gentleman was playing the whole evening. He was playing flawlessly, he was playing absolutely with no mistakes. He was playing in various keys. He was accompanying all songs with, no errors whatsoever. And yet he did not know where the tone G was located on the keyboard. And this for me came as a very interesting fact, And later on I started thinking, could it be that this gentleman just didn't learn, where the tone G is first, but instead he learned where the, say, chord G minor is or G major is, and that's why he think about music differently. That's why he conceptualized the whole musical accompaniment differently, and maybe even like some cognitive musical skills are hence developed differently. So these are some questions. This was further strengthened with, or during the interview with this gentleman, also sadly no longer with us, amazing accordion player. And So I asked him once during one interview, so you learned to play from the elders? And he said, oh no, the elders didn't want to play with us, only the family. And when they had to play with us, they played very fast. They didn't want us to pick up their chords. And this is also something that interested me very much, because all of a sudden, when you think about like Western conceptualization of harmony, it's basically determined by some sort of mathematical relation that are sort of public domain, and you read any textbook and you grasp everything about harmony and then use it and you have it in mind. And all of a sudden here, chords or harmonic accompaniment becomes something else. It becomes sort of treasury, something that you can treasure for yourself, treasure for your family, something that you want to give out because it is part of your musical repertoire, right? So to conclude, I guess the Romani chords can be approached as a way, first, of musical enculturation, or a very peculiar form of musical enculturation. That is how you grow into music if you are Roma, and also as a peculiar form of musical transmission. That is how you pass, the musical material from generation to another or among peers and so on. Okay, let's jump into another topic. The other ethnographic picture is actually going to contribute to what I call as a theme, as Romani chords as a form of musical subversion. And this was a very interesting moment because it happened, I think, like 2 years ago. I was in a pub with a Romani friend of mine, great musician, and there was another musician. He happened to be non-Roma, and he happened to have very strong background in Slovak folk music and folklore music in particular, because he knew basically all songs in the world you can imagine, and he did this sort of, this peculiar game that he just like approached everyone in the pub and asked them, what is your favorite song? I know it, I know the song, and I can play it for you. And of course, it didn't take long when he approached me, and he asked me, hey Gazda, what's the song of your heart? Which one can I play for you? Gazda, by the way, means like homesteader, but he only wanted to stress that I'm part of this part of this game, and I should also be part of the great entertainment going on. But under my ethnographic disguise, I pretended I'm not interested, although I was very interested in what he was playing. So I was like pretending I'm looking the TV screen behind, and there was this football, and the gentleman said, "Oh, so you are not so much into music, but you're more into football. Never mind, I have a song for you." And he started the song. Zelená je tráva a fotbal to je hra. And now this is very peculiar song because the translation of the lyrics are green is the grass, football is the game. And if that sounds familiar to some of you, yes, you're right. This is the famous Chelsea football chant. Blue is the color and football is the game. And I guess this could be another whole leg of research, to look why Czech and Slovaks in particular have special talent to steal foreign tunes and overdub it with very absurd lyrics. But anyway, this green is the grass and football is the game is extremely popular football song in the Czech Republic and Slovakia. And I didn't want to talk about this so much because what I do want to talk about is the way the accordion player actually harmonized this song. Oops. So let's see it now with the harmony. So what I actually liked about this was that I immediately started thinking how my research participants and friends and Romani accordions would actually accompany this song. As you can see, the gentleman here was happy with two chords, that is like subdominant and tonic. We are in C major here. And now what I'm going to present to you need to take with a bit of grain of salt, because I'm gonna play not what actual Romani accordionists did, but what I did. Yes. And I sort of overdid it in purpose so that you can get the idea. Okay, let's jump into it. Of course, I've fooled you with so many things, such as the tempo is different, the rhythm is completely different. And also this rather than ta 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 ta. But when we focus exclusively on harmony, we have something like this. Pa 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 ra pa pa. Right. Okay. So you get the idea, and the idea that came from this ethnographic picture was, isn't the Romani chords phenomenon like a subversive response to harmonic accompaniment that is all around? You know, don't they just do these very special chords, very dense chords and very creative chords, just because the surrounding music is boring? And this may sound very controversial, but I have another ethnographic picture to support this claim, and this is, by the way, the last ethnographic picture, number 7. By the way, this was the prompt that was hardest to produce. I don't know why this gentleman is playing 2 double bass, why the cymbal has the keyboard. I don't know why this gentleman is playing charango. I don't know. But anyway, once I was attending a rehearsal of a folklore ensemble, and they were all male, all Romani band playing. And because they gathered after a long time and they were supposed to play the same song all and all over again, they were sort of making up things. They were sort of like making some special, you know, just like sort of artistic sabotaging because they were really getting bored. And especially the cymbal player enjoyed it very much, and he showed it, and he even commented, ha ha ha, A-6, ha ha. And everyone was like, yeah, you're right, yes, this is. But all of a sudden, there was a sharp whistle and complaints from the folklore ensemble leader. And these are actual quotes from my PhD thesis. Hey, don't you get it? There are new dancers today. You're just messing with their heads with your playing. If they were all dancers, I wouldn't mind you playing whatever. And later there was a female folklore ensemble leader approaching the gentleman and saying, guys, I wanted to talk to you about that. I understand you also like different kind of music, but here in folklore, you really should maintain the tradition. Here it's important to play authentically like your ancestor did. You know, so without introducing so much of a historical and social context, I think one way you can see Romani chords is also a way of sort of creative reinterpretation of surrounding, you know, harmonic accompaniment, because it's sort of boring. You know, we play for Gaja, we play for non-Roma, but at the same time, we need to, you know, make the music sound a little bit more interesting and not so boring like they produce. Okay, this was pretty much everything I wanted to cover, and I think I will soon open the floor with a question whether you've also encountered the phenomenon of Romani chord. Because I am aware that this is not a universal thing, that it's not like everywhere, but for example, when I was doing research for this proposal, I noticed that, for example, in Romanian, this accordure romanes, which I cannot pronounce, is actually something as a thing as well. And just to tell you that I'm recording this talk for my funders, so in case you like to ask, but you don't want your question to be part of the recording, just tell me and I can cut it out. Anyway, this is to give some credit to the pictures I used. And if you're interested in this topic, there are plenty of things that I didn't manage to cover. So you can visit this website, romanichords.eu, and I actually posted 2 videos, one 8 minutes long, another one 100 minutes long. So if you really want to immerse into this topic of Romani chords, you are welcome to do so by visiting this website. Thank you so much for your attention. Look forward to your questions.
Thank you very much, Peter. Oops. Yes, this is the first one, this is the second. Oh, well. And here are 3 others. Okay, I've got 5 now. You're the first.
The talk. Just remember the conversations we've had before. So I'm thinking about the parallels that we can think about in terms of constructs of dissonance and what is pretty nice music. And when you're talking about the ideas of universality and whether they exist in other parts of the world or not, I do think there's a very strong connection with how the accordion is played, with how the harmonium is played in the Indian classical music tradition, the North Indian classical music tradition. Because when I learned the harmonium, we weren't taught any chords like that, but we were asked to kind of improvise, and I find that I have actually found that quite similar for many years, last 10 years. I've talked to you about this. So, what do you think is, how can we delve more into these ideas of what is resonance and what is dissonance, coming from a cultural point of view. So how do you think it works, like in the case of the Roman culture?
Yeah, it's an amazing question. Thank you, Buddha. By the way, when I talk about this topic to Tom, who is our colleague who does research on Qawwali music in India, he actually mentioned the very same thing. I actually have the same thing on harmonium in Qawwali music tradition. So I was very happy that this sort of a creative approach to transmission of harmony and creative approach to like constructing harmony per se is actually sort of universal like. I mean, that there's much more deep research that needs to be done. And when it comes to your question about dissonance versus consonance and how this works in Romani music in particular, I'm actually looking forward to jump into it methodologically, because I'll be doing sort of data collection, sonic data collection, which allow for, you know, like deep musical analysis of the actual harmony used. And what I hope to achieve is to exactly see the level of, you know, consonance, dissonance, and how the sort of level of dissonance plays role in this Romani impression management, if you like. And so it's a question. It's not something I can give you an answer, but I can tell you that this is one of my research questions, and I'm actually looking forward to get more. Yeah, I guess obviously, you know, when you want to be creative, when it comes to harmonic accompaniment, you have actually very little repertoire and very little fingers to actually stay consonant all the time. So the level of dissonance is something the most creative you can do, and creating tension with various chords is actually common practice, not just in Romani music, but I would say in music in general. But I need to look at it.
Yeah, this is one like 2 seconds from and comment. You must also look into theories of music psychology, because I've been talking to music psychologists for like the past few months, and what they feel is the more pathos and the more sense of sorrow there is in a community, the kind of ideas of harmony, it changes. It still is harmony according to them, but according to kind of Western classical, the canonical tradition, it is not. So maybe due to the peripatetic nature of the interlocutors, it could be a thing. So.
Thank you. We'll look at it.
Next question.
I think it would depend from dominating instrument used by musicians. For gypsies, it's guitar, and the guitar construction of guitar could provoke to search non-standard chords.
Yeah, you're very right. You actually didn't mention that this project particularly focused on accordion and guitar. And there is a subtle difference between guitar and accordion, exactly in the way you said, because while accordion is relatively fixed, you can get very interesting timbres that are even like microtonal when it comes to Romani guitar. And we actually I had a talk some half a year ago among my Romani studies colleagues, and I asked the question, do you remember any Romani musician who owns a tuner on the guitar? And we just didn't recall anyone who owns a tuner. Everyone's tuning by ear, which is sometimes interesting because they are playing, there's a stage for 3,000 people, and sometimes they are not perfectly in tune. And yet I think it's part of this Romani sound. And this needs to be investigated, like you said, not just like as a sort of fixed, like a fixed note sort of perspective, but also to investigate the sound in more general point of view. Yes.
Thank you. Let's turn to this side. Who went first? There. Benji, and then let's go on.
So I've encountered this a little bit with Musicologists from Moldova, and old musicians from Moldova meeting musicians from the klezmer revival, and there's a lot of overlap in terms of repertoire. So those Lautaric musicians hearing klezmer revival musicians playing, and they say, "Why are you playing like we did 80 years ago?" So they sort of framed it, many of these musicians framed it as like a musical evolution. That's an old style that you're playing, it's cute, but it's not really modern. So I'm wondering if there's a historical scope to the project, and what the actual sources are for that.
Yes, yeah, that's a great question. And indeed, I'm actually planning to basically do I don't want to go for too much detail for the time sake reason, but I can tell you later. But the idea is to indeed have sort of intergenerational overview and have participants from various age cohort, that is interviewing very old musicians who were taught to play from even older musicians, and then focus on how the phenomenon of Romani chords actually, what it means for this generation or the youngest generation of Roma. And I'm looking forward to actually see what will come up, whether there is indeed some sort of transmission that goes from generation to another, or whether there's always subversion to the previous generation. It's a research question as well. I cannot answer it by now, but I can tell you that it's on my radar and it's something I look forward to look at.
Thank you. Britta was the next.
I was just wondering about terminology, because you used Romani and Gypsy, and I was wondering, are there discourses going on, or maybe also authorities saying you are not allowed to use this or that? Who is deciding that? Because I have a colleague who is working on Romani music as well, and the Romani themselves often use Gypsy because it has been a kind of tradition, but she's always being told off when she presents this in academic or whatever, or journalistic context. So what is your situation, especially also the chords?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So, you know, in Czech Republic and Slovakia, where I particularly do my research, it's politically incorrect to say word Cikan or Cigan, which is translated as gypsy. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, when it comes to how Roma refer about themselves and how they refer about their chords, it's actually more often, I would say, they say gypsy chords. So I obviously, when applying for the European scheme, I couldn't use a politically incorrect term, but this is also a research endeavor. I just wanted to take back this slide because, and I didn't have a chance to talk about it, but this gentleman was explicitly saying that there was this gypsy guy who started teaching him left-handed guitar. So, you know, he owed him some favor, and yet he was referring to him about as less polite word. And then he said, romské akordy, Romani chords, by which he expressed sort of, you know, admiration into the culture, which I think it's also, it becomes actually research inquiry rather than anything else.
Mm-hmm. Was it Malik now? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for this very entertaining introduction into your project, and I think you're on a very promising road to integrate music structural analysis with sociocultural interpretation, because often this is like separated and people focus on one side. So regarding the music structural aspects, do you really want to focus on the chords, like abstracting these from the other aspects, or will you also focus on like picking patterns, use of fingers or pick, and then same on the accordion, because I think this makes a big difference, which you also demonstrated with your example, because you can have the F major chord and you can do a lot of different things with it. So do you plan to separate these aspects, or will you also look at these?
Yeah, so basically the idea again is to, I didn't want to talk about methodology at all because that's obviously another topic, but I can tell you in like 15 seconds, can I?
Yes.
Okay, so basically the idea is to look at three types of data. The first data is the sonic data that are really the sort of MIDI data coming from the instrument itself, ready for the sonic analysis. The second type of data is visual data, that is how fingers are configured when it comes to left-hand guitar or right-hand accordion. You know, what role does it play, the visual sort of representation and configuration of the fingers. And then there's another source, and this is ethnographic data, that is what they think about the chords, how they learn this chord, how they think about those chords. And the idea for the project is basically to look at this as a stream of data set that is treated as a, you know, complex data set that you know, because I think even like the visual data, visual traits will have actually a great deal of meaning. And yeah, just didn't want to go for too much detail, but I can tell you later what's the idea about the sort of visual configuration and looking at chords as sort of visual-based transmission. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Peter.
Thank you.